Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and we're back with another episode of 10-minute testing for the One Piece trading card game. In this series, we'll be showcasing a deck through competitive gameplay and analyzing its position in the upcoming meta. So get yourselves a drink, and we'll get straight into the card by card. Today's 20-minute testing, we're going to be trying out Monkey D. Garp. Now, Garp, I've been super excited for a long time, not because I believe he's strong or anything like that, but because I just like his character from the show. Luffy's grandpa, a Navy admiral, a torn character, super duper cool, and his effect is nothing to be scoffed at. So for those who don't know what Monkey D. Garp does, it's your turn. When you attach a Dawn to this leader or one of your characters, give up to one of your opponent's 7 cost or lower characters -1 to their total cost during this turn. That's really powerful. So if you saw my Smoker video, basically the Navy has one big mechanic. You want to reduce cost. So if you have the layup, which is the reducer, and the dunker, who is the KO effect, Garp is always laying it up. So I decided to make a deck that I think would be more conducive to that, and definitely the more games that I play, I think this deck actually has a shot. So let's go doing a quick little card by card. So we're obviously going to use Garp, who is a red and black leader, which lets us use very powerful red cards. So we're going to be grabbing the Nami. Why are we playing Nami? Well, mostly because it's a consistent searcher for a Chopper as well as Brook, and Brook is exceptionally good in this deck because as he uses his effect offensively, he triggers the Monkey D. Garp. So whenever you play a Brook, not only does it give 2 Dawn to a character, it also minuses the cost of your opponent's character by 2. But other than that, that's kind of like all that the Straw Hats really add to this. The Nico Robin is cute, helps you deal with a little bit of the aggro decks, but overall doesn't really synergize with the destruction that's based off of cost, does it more off of the power scaling of a character, and there's really not many reducers in this deck. So Nico Robin's mostly here as a card that begs for Dawn, and I think that's what kind of Monkey D. Garp wants to do. They want to play a lot of cards that beg for Dawn. You give it to them, you use your leader's ability to trigger the minus effect, and then you bring out the big dunkers in form of, unfortunately, Kobe is a big dunker, and Sakazuki. Sakazuki, the more I play this card, the more I'm impressed with his overall ability at handling the board. And let me say, the Monkey D. Garp character card, even though it is a 2k in hand, the effect is actually really good, because not only does this card beg for Dawn, it is a Dawn ×2 when attacking knock out one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. It basically says you add 2 Dawn to make this a 5k, and then you also -2k to -2 cost to one of your opponent's characters, and then you can possibly do some pretty crazy knockouts, and there are some nice little combos in this deck. So let's get to the card by card. We have 4 Namis. We all know what she does by now, but if you don't, she is a searcher for the Straw Hat crew characters and events. More than just searching the Chopper and the Brook, she also searches Radical Beam, which, being a 4-life leader, Radical Beam is so good. Oftentimes, I let my opponents hit me down to 2 life to have my Radical Beam active, and then I start going on the offensive as well as the defensive. We're going to be playing 4 Nico Robins, mostly to deal with pesky searchers and blockers of those natures. The green deck plays a ton of blockers, Law, and she kind of helps a little bit with dealing with the aggression from red when they play their Makinos and little boosters. So definitely not a bad card. Then I'm playing 2 Whitebeards, right? So 2 Edward Newgate character cards. Now, a 4-life leader that has the red ability, it seems like Whitebeard fits in the deck pretty well, right? I let myself get to 2, I Radical Beam myself for a little bit, and then I Newgate to stabilize, make that turn a really difficult turn for my opponent to come at me, and then now I have this humongous body on the board that's just going to destroy my opponent. Funnily enough, if my opponent does play a Whitebeard versus me, I cannot use Monkey D. Garp's effect to reduce its cost because it only reduces 7 costs or lower. So Eustace, Captain Kidd, Odin, and Edward Newgate are the cards that I'm thinking of are the most meta relevant that cannot be reduced by my leader. But that's why we have other cards in the deck. But we'll get to it. So Edward Newgate, 4-lifers, might want to try him out. I definitely want to try him out in Law, as well as the Monkey D. Luffy dual color deck. But definitely a card that is I'm still on the fence about. It seems conceptually like it would be good, but we'll see if in practice it also proves to be good as well. Then we're going to play 4 1-cost searchable blockers. He's Choppa. We're trying out 2 of the Namis, as this card will trigger your Monkey D. Garp's effect, but the fact that you're playing these Namis, you'll bottom deck these Namis, and honestly, I wanted to just see if I would ever play this card, and the more I played the matchups, the more I saw that this card was not too great, but definitely an idea. Then we have 4 of the Brooks. Fantastic card. One of the best 2Ks for this deck. Another 2K that you might consider, Sanji, since he sucks 2 Dawn to himself that will also trigger your Garp, but by taking a life, it might be a little risky on a 4-lifer. So I'm not necessarily sure Sanji is the play, but Brook feels amazing in this deck. Then we got 4 Kuzan, right? So if our leader cannot reduce our opponent's characters, Kuzan certainly can. One of the best cards to come out of the new set. Enter the battlefield or on play, draw a card while also -4 on attack and a great stat line. The only thing he's missing is counter power, but honestly, if he had it, he'd be a little too overstated in my opinion. Now we have Kobe, just one of our dunkers. Even though he is a 3 cost, this 3 cost being able to KO a character of cost 3 or less comes up more than you think, because even 7-drop Eustace Captain Kid blocker can become a 3 cost very easily if I use my Dawn offensively and then I just Kobe it away. Super duper good in this deck. Then Sakazuki, being able to KO a cost 5 or less is amazing. If I have a Kuzan on board, there is nothing that can outlive the Sakazuki, and curving Kuzan into Sakazuki is unbelievably powerful. The more I play this card, the more I'm thinking that in this deck in particular, we need more dunkers, right? Because our leader is always being able to lay it up, so we don't really need much more of the layups. We can just use and facilitate our Sakazukis, our Kobes, and Meteor Volcano. We'll talk about that later. For Borsalino, there's nothing to be said. This card is crazy. In the mirror match, this card cannot be knocked out by my opponent's card effect. Versus red, it cannot be knocked out by my opponent's card effect. The only deck that can truly handle this in a way is blue, as it bounces it to my hand. But honestly, I don't feel bad. I will just replay it. It doesn't really leave the field. It's a super sticky card. The fact that it's a 6k also on my opponent's turn is very, very tricky, because oftentimes they'll swing for 5 and this is just a free block. Monkey D Garp, as I said, a funny little dunker in the form of a Nico. It's like a better Nico Robin, and the fact that it has a 2k stat line to boot is really, really solid. All that the Navy's really missing is a true searcher like a Nami, and then honestly I would go more black heavy on this deck. Then we have 2 Tashigi just to round out another 2k, but honestly this could be a spot for something else. We've got 4 Radical Beams. This card is absurd in terms of defense, and then Meteor Volcano in this deck in particular is chef's kiss. I loved this card. Every time I drew it, it would KO literally anything I wanted. As long as I can get my opponent's character down to a cost of 1 or less, it's out of here. And we have Kuzan to facilitate that for even Eustace Captain Kids, the 7-drops, Odins, anything along those lines is not really too far off of being Meteor Volcano. Sakazuki is great if you need the body, but you're not always going to have Kobe or Sakazuki, so Meteor Volcano honestly helps facilitate that. And then for our 4k counter, I tried Impact Wave, a fantastic card allowing me to go up to 9k and then also knocking out an opponent's character with a cost of 3 or less. So let's get right into the games. So we're here with our first game with the Garp deck, and it's going to be versus the big bad Whitebeard. So Whitebeard, I chose it as the first game because I wanted to show you guys just how this deck handles aggro. And I go Nami, Search, Radical Beam, because I understand where this game is going and I'm terrified. Although Chopper would have been a great choice, the fact that Vista is so popular in that deck makes it so that he's not terribly ideal. So we'll just go ahead and Nami and pass. I need to start setting up attackers to deal with him. I can't just start going 6 at face and not really doing much with my turn. Nico Robin was set up in order to deal with some of his pesky cards, but it's also another card that can just get answered very easily. He goes 6 at face. I'm gonna have to take this. Something to be noted, this deck going second is so much stronger because it hits all the admirals on curve. Unfortunately, he did make me go first, and he's gonna go here with the Zoro. So I'm glad I played the Nico Robin, because now I have a way to contest his board. So he's swung at me for 5, and this is why I'm not a huge fan of Zoro in this deck. Doesn't feel like it's really just doing much. I'm gonna go 5 at it. I do have the Kobe to handle it if I need, but the fact that he let it go through is fantastic for me, as I can just play a Kuzan and pass. Just keep setting up bodies, right? Because eventually he is taking his own life. I don't have to really do much. The fact that Whitebeard at the end of the turn goes ahead and removes a life from himself makes it so I can play a little bit more passive and just create bodies. He goes 6 at my face once again. I'm gonna have to take this again, right? I could combo out of it really easily, but I don't want to. Now this Volcano doesn't really do much at this point in time, so I'm gonna choose the draw 2. Then we go ahead and discard the other Volcano, I believe, or just an uncombable card. Now I have 2 Sakazukis in hand, and I finally started getting some blockers, so that's really good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go 6. This is gonna trigger a response from him. He could have also just chosen to take it. I'm going to go 6 again, and then I have 4 Dawn perfectly left for Borsalino. Now, Borsalino is so good because it cannot be KO'd. Even if he can reduce its attack power and Vista it, it cannot be stopped. So he goes and plays Ace. Yeah, that's not great for me. So he's going to go 6. Yeah, I can't defend that. And then he's going to go ahead and swing at me with the ace. I will take that once again. I'm going to go ahead and 7 it. I'm going to use his effect to minus the ace by 2. Now the ace is a 5 cost. He's going to go ahead and defend it. I'm going to go ahead and play Sakazuki. Sakazuki's going to go ahead and take care of it. And then I'm also going to leave 1 Don up. I could have left it for Radical Beam, but I chose to go for Chopper. More blockers just to annoy him, right? He'd have to play the Vista, and then he'll go down to 0. Use 33% of his turn to really not do too much. Cool with it. So there we go. He goes right into the Vista. So we're handling the turn mighty fine thus far, but definitely going to be a tough position to be in. The Sakazuki is really going to do a lot of work here. Now swinging for 9 just because Moby Dick is absolutely bananas. I'm not going to go ahead and defend this. He goes Marco. Marco is a really solid card, right? It's a blocker that's always there. Omnipresent blocker. Not good for me. We'll go ahead and put 1 Dawn here. We'll go minus the Marco. Now he's a 3 cost. And I want him to like block with it. I want him to be afraid. He goes ahead and 2Ks out of it. I will go ahead and minus the Marco once again. Swing 8 at lead. This is going to probably trigger a Radical Beam or a guard point of some choice. He goes Radical Beam. Perfectly fine. Then I got to really decide what I want to go ahead and do here. Now I can go ahead and play Sakazuki to go ahead and KO the Marco, which is going to force another card out of his hand because I definitely can't beat him this turn. I can go ahead and put all my Dawn on the Borzolino and go for it, but that's very, very scary. I go Nami. Nami replaces itself. I was really hoping to get another beam, and I'll go ahead and place another Borzolino. And I'm thinking if I want... Yeah, I can't make this Nami attack. It's unfortunate. I could put a Dawn on Borzolino and trigger 1 more response, but that's a little greedy, so I'm just going to let it pass from here. I got 2 blockers up that can't be necessarily interrupted. They can't be Seaquaked, they can't be pistoled, so I feel pretty good. The scariest card that he might have is like a Rush Luffy unblockable, but I do have the Radical Beam plus a lot of counter in my hand to handle it. So let's see, he goes 8 at my lead. I'm going to Radical Beam. That's just the perfect number to Radical Beam. It just requires 1 card. And then he'll go Vista. That's a free block here. He can go 5 when I have 6Ks. And then even if Marco goes at it, or if he like aces and goes at it, that means he's not going at my life, and I'm really okay with that. And if Marco is sideways, we're in a really good spot because then he has to combo out of a 6, 16, which is very difficult to do, right? You want to go evens. Don't ever try to do the odds. Even though I can go 17, it doesn't make any sense. He goes 6, and that's just not a correct number. That's easy to combo out of. And then he's taking a long time to think here. Once again, 4 times speed, by the way. Long think. But definitely we're in a pretty solid position to potentially win this game. He goes Jozu, attach a Dawn into the Jozu. And Jozu's going to be a 7. So I don't think he has any more attackers. I will go ahead and block. I could have also blocked with the Borzolino and 2K and then forced the Marco attack, but I think I would have been fine with that as well. So it goes back to my turn. I'm going to go ahead and reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm going to make the Marco a 4 cost. He gives me a 2K. I'm going to go ahead and attach a bunch of Dawn. I'm going to go ahead and Meteor Volcano off the bat, and I still have a ton of Dawn to work with, and that's just the power of Garp. Now, if he wants to save this Marco, he can. Sure, the Moby Dick wasn't doing anything, but now you've revealed to me you have 3 dead, 3 cards in your hand, and I can just math you out of this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and Borzolino for 6, which is going to proc a card. Then Borzolino for 6, which will proc a card. And then the most he can go up to is 10, and Sakazuki should go way beyond 10. So mathematically, boom, game. Blouses. So we're going to our next game. This is versus the Eustace Captain Kid, who was once a humongous threat, but it seems like the black cards being introduced to the meta has made this matchup a little bit more manageable. Even if they go ahead and summon the 8-cost Kid, the fact that we have Kuzan plus Kobe, let's get it. So he starts off with Beji, makes me go second, and this is what's really nice again about the black deck. My going second feels good because I have Nami Chopper. Now I have a plethora of 4 drops to choose from, but the fact that he plays Okiku makes me a little scared. Like, I would have loved to play Borzolino here, but I'm just not convinced that that's the play. I'm going to go ahead and swing at him for 7, reduce the Okiku, and I'm just going to Volcano it. And that's just what's really good about Garp. He has so much control built into the leader. That felt pretty nice. It's going to go back to my opponent. He's going to swing at me for 5. I'm going to take it again. Again, trying to get myself into the Radical Beam range, which is a risk. It's risky business, definitely, but I'm down to play that game. So I do have the Impact Wave, which is not a bad card by any means. But I'm going to go ahead and I have to take care of this Okiku. I just can't really, I can't deal with it right now. If it goes ahead and starts resting my Borzolino and I start losing them, it's not going to be great. If I go Borzolino, pass up to Dawn, Okiku's the first swing, and that's going to make it my impact wave isn't getting value. So I just didn't want to go ahead and play that game with him. So I just decided to deploy the Nico Robin, which is allowing me to deal with his little chump blockers. And Darshi blows. Green is really good at resting characters. They have a lot of options now. It feels like you're never safe with Cat Viper, Izo, and Yamato. But that's fine. Nico Robin did what it had to do. It served as a pseudo blocker. And I still get to keep my Chopper. He was thinking, I guess, there if he wanted to swing Killer at Chopper, he chose not to. I'm going to go 5 at lead. He takes this again. And then I got to decide what I really want to do here. This turn, there doesn't seem like I have any more dunkers, but he also doesn't have really attacking bodies on the board. So I'm going to make all my weenies go at him this turn and then deploy a Borzolino possibly. He's going to go ahead and defend that. And then I'm going to force another piece of interaction from him. He goes Beji and I go Borzolino. So not a bad turn, but my hand is looking a little bit questionable, right? I don't have a dunker, and if he goes here and slams an A drop, we're in actually a pretty difficult position. The thing is, if we do end up top decking like a Sakazuki or something, we can easily take care of it with the cards on our board. So he goes and swings Cat Viper at the Nami. Not going to be able to defend that. There's just no point in investing resources into the Nami. He's going to go 5 at 4. I'm going to go ahead and defend this with the Borzolino, because even if he goes ahead and restands his kid, I do have the Chopper to defend it if he so chooses to. He goes ahead and plays the X-Drake, which funnily enough can't stop my Borzolino, brother. Can't be knocked out. So he goes ahead and knocks out the Kobe, which is absolutely fine, and Yamato. So like, not in a great spot for the homeboys. So we'll go ahead and Kuzan. We'll swing over one of his possible attackers, although I could have also just swung face. It didn't really matter. And then play another Borzolino. So again, being at 10 Dawn, dropping double 4s and keeping 2 up is really powerful for this deck. And now I've set up a Kuzan for any sort of big card that he summons. If he chooses Odin, which is worst case scenario, we can probably handle it depending on what we draw. And then we can also handle a potential A-drop kid. He goes 7 at my face. And I could defend this, and I will choose to defend this because it's just too free, right? That's just it feels like 7 is the perfect number to trigger an event spell. So I go ahead and impact wave away the blocker, putting him in a very sticky position. He has 4 cards at hand, 2 life, and I have a lot of bodies on the board, making it so I can potentially get in there. He goes 8 at my face, attaching 2 to the Yamato. Go ahead and let that one go through. Definitely gonna have to leave Radical Beam up next turn. And now I'm playing a risky game because if he goes Eustace Captain Kid and then restands the Eustace Captain Kid and goes again, we're gonna have to dump the majority of our hand, but that puts us in a very difficult position for the following turn. So he goes and plays Straw Sword, leaving himself with not too much Dawn available. Can attach the majority of it, leaving 1 Dawn up for a Paradise, and I just can't afford to protect that Borzolino. So it's going to go back to my turn. Kuzan's going to be able to have to do some work here. And then I guess he goes ahead and I decide to go for the X-Drake, because the X-Drake is definitely a potential attacker. He goes ahead and Paradises away the Yamato. Again, not bad for me, but I'm still in a very difficult spot. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the Yamato just to, I guess, make him scared. Go ahead and 2k over, and then I'm going to go Borzolino. And I'm thinking if I want to play this Nami or not, right? But that's what the situation with Nami. She's either 1k counter in hand, and she's not really doing much on the board. So I'd rather just keep her in hand. And even though I'm floating 1 extra Dawn, I'm okay with that. So if he wants to go on the full offensive here, I'm going to have to somehow deal with this board. But I do have 2 Borzolinos. This should be able to help. Let's see what my opponent decides to do. But it's not looking great. I haven't really hit a lot of the destruction factors in the deck. And this is prior to making the changes that I make later on in this video to increase the number of KO characters like the Sakazuki, Meteor Volcano, as well as the Kobe. And he takes a long think here. Let's see what he decides to do. Goes ahead and attaches a couple Dawn, and I'm going to take a free block here. Again, even if he goes for the Borzolino, I'm okay with it. I guess I don't go for the free block. I was afraid to lose a Borzolino, which is interesting. But I never think that attaching Dawn to a character that's below 5k is very Dawn efficient, right? For every Dawn you add to a character that's above 5k, that increases the opponent's cards that they have to drop by about 1.5. Whereas if you're attaching it to a character that's below 5k, it increases the card by 0.5. So it's really not that efficient. He goes for the Kuzan here. I decide to try and save him. Go Radical Beam this. He's going to go ahead and turn his kid sideways one more time. Again at the Kuzan. I don't believe I can combo out unless I fully commit to protecting it, right? So now he has 2 cards in hand. I do get a Meteor Volcano, which is quite nice. That's going to allow me to play very offensively. So I go 5. Yeah, if he has 1 card in hand and it's a Paradise Waterfall, I'm okay with him triggering it here because I still have 3 attackers. He goes ahead and triggers it here, meaning that he doesn't really have much going on. I'm going to go 7. Swing at face, reduce the Yamato. Now Yamato is within lethal range. I'm going to go for it here. I'm going to go 7 one more time, and then I'm just going to attach everything to Borzolino. I kind of read that he just didn't have anything there, and yeah, we were able to take it. But had he had a couple 2Ks, we were in a really tough spot. I'm going to go ahead and go to our last game here versus a very strong and aggressive deck, which is the new Law deck that comes out in the OP2. Not much changes, but the deck becomes so much more consistent as it almost always sees Nami now thanks to Curly to Dawn, and the effect that they're constantly attacking you for 5s and 6 is really, really scary. So I go ahead and play a Chopper and a Monkey D. Garp. This Monkey D. Garp is really solid. He's going to act as a Nico Robin in this matchup, but unfortunately he just gets Vista'd. What a strong card. And my opponent having a crazy start. Nami Chopper, Vista Chopper, right? You can't really ask for a better start from the Law player. So I have to decide here what I really want to do. The fact that I'm going on odds again is already a weakness, but I'll swing at face. He'll take it again. I'm going to go ahead and deploy another Monkey D. Garp, foregoing the fact that I can play the Kuzan because I want to leave 2 up here for a potential impact wave. I want to bait him here to play the last card, so he's going to go ahead and play this. I'm going to go ahead and impact wave him here, and that's going to stop him from shambling, right? So he fell right into the bait. Going to remove the Chopper, make it easier to remove the Zoro on the following turn. I'm going to go ahead and combo out of this. And now we're going to have to do a lot of work here, right? This Garp is going to do the Lord's work. So he's going to go ahead and reduce the Zoro a bit. We're going to reduce the Chopper. We're going to go ahead and swing, delete the Chopper on swing, or KO the Chopper. He's going to go ahead and defend it. I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 Dawn on the Nami. I'm going to go ahead and spread the minus around town. Go 5 again at it. Going to go 5 with it here, and make sure to Volcano this here. And now we're in a really nice spot, right? And that's just the power of drawing these KO effect cards, like the Meteor Volcano. So he has the Machino, again, very good card. Machino is going to allow the Nami to go over my Garp. Can't really allow that to be, I can't afford to defend it at this point in time. And this is really unfortunate because I'm going to lose the majority of my board here. He's going to go 5 at my life. I'm going to have to take this because I don't have any counter power in my hand, which feels absolutely terrible. He goes ahead and plays a Nami, and then he's going to swing it on back to me. But fortunately, I do draw a Kobe. Kobe does bail me out of this situation because it allows me to deal with this Law pretty easily. Can't complain. So I'm going to go and make it sure that I swing 7. Swinging 1 above the Law. If he wants to go and defend it, he certainly can. He chooses to. I'm going to go 1 at 0, which is a really risky play, but one that I'm down to do all day. Going to go Kobe to come down, remove the Kuzan. Kuzan's unfortunately not going to have time to come down this game, and I kind of want to decide how I want to finish off this turn. I do want to keep up some Dawn. I do have the access to the Meteor Volcano, and I don't know if I have like the chance to either deploy the Chopper. Should I Meteor Volcano this Brook? I'm not really sure what I should do in this final stage of the game, but I want to deploy a possible attacker so that I can potentially have 3 attacks to his 2 life. He has very little cards in hand, and I want to make sure to use that to my advantage. And I think the best way to go about it is remove an attacker and play in a possible attacker. So I'm going to keep the Chopper in hand, and even though that isn't necessarily counter power, I am threatening lethal with these cards on the board, as weird as that sounds. And it goes back to my opponent's turn. He has 2 cards. He's going to go ahead and swing for the fences here with this Brook, it seems. I will take this one to bait him into attacking me. I draw another non-countered card, so I definitely just lose here to a Zoro, which doesn't feel great. Any sort of rusher really does it. But when I see him attach more Dawn than necessary, I get so excited. So now I possibly have a chance at winning this game. I just have to make it so that I don't like lose it. So I'm going to go ahead and attach an absorbent amount of Dawn. Make it so that I cannot be pistoled with any of my characters that aren't the Chopper, leaving a bit of Dawn up for the Chopper. Don't have to attach Dawn to my leader just yet. So I'll go swing for 7. He takes, and it does hit the Jet Pistol. And that's why we play around cards like that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go 7 again. He's going to combo out of it. I'm going to go 5. I don't have to attach Dawn. I'm going to play Chopper and pass. And then now, unless he top decks another rusher,
so we're back with the deck. And honestly, Garp felt fantastic. I think people are sleeping on this deck. Mostly because of the fact that it's really, really powerful. The fact that you can reduce anything you want from just your leader makes it so that all these black cards or all the black dunkers are exceptionally good. Sakazuki in this deck is a powerhouse. The 7k body with also basically knock out anything in the entire game. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. Kobe, the 4k body with basically knock out anything between the cost of 7 or less is also really, really good. And the fact that Meteor Volcano can become a fantastic KO spell from hand, or in life, the fact that I can draw 2 and discard just to filter more cards is really, really good. Now, the cons with this deck, obviously you're a 4-lifer. The fact that the Navy doesn't really have a consistent searcher also makes it so that you have to basically max out on every single good card in your deck. Sakazuki, Borsalino, Monkey D. Garp, Kobe, and Kuzan. All of these cards have to be at maximum because you have to see them at some point in time. And that makes it so that your deck isn't as combo heavy as other decks, right? So you're playing 4 Sakazukis and 4 Kuzans, which are already going to remove 8 counter power from your deck, but you do try to fix that with other specific cards. Other than that, that's not a huge con, but the fact that you're a 4-lifer, you have to be very, very wary. You try to mitigate that with Radical Beams, which is a solid way of doing it, but definitely something to consider and something to be afraid of within such an aggressive meta with red and law just going 5-5-5-5-5 every turn, or 6-6-6. It's very difficult to out counter those cards consistently while dealing with their consistent aggression. Now, the pros. No one knows what your deck does. There are a plethora of cards that can be inside your deck, and they really can't play around all of them, so you have the surprise factor, which is pretty darn good. Another pro, you have really, really fantastic cards to your disposal. Almost every single card in this deck is a powerhouse in and of itself. As you can see with this list, it's very different from the list that we started, because after playing more and more games, there's not really a Garp list to base my deck off of. No Garps really took many championships in the East, so I had to kind of theory craft what I thought the deck would do. And honestly, this went through 4 iterations of the deck, and this is where I'm pretty confident and feel like this list is pretty consistent. The big differences between the prior list and this list is Nico Robin's no longer here, mostly because you don't really need it. The fact that these 1-drop blockers are still very, very powerful, but Vista being in the metagame is kind of frustrating. That card is really, really good. You do a setup turn, you get everything ready, and then you just get Vista'd. Feels really, really bad. But you know what feels really, really good? Cards like Borsalino. There's also something to be said about playing more of the cards that say cannot be KO'd by opponent's card effects. There's a lot of cards from the Navy side that do have that tagline, but I think that you're foregoing a lot of potential power by going that strategy. I did put Sanji back in the deck mostly because he is a searchable 2k, and I guess in some instances he can be an aggressive card, but definitely be very, very wary when using this card. This Monkey D. Luffy from the OG OP01, this guy's pretty darn good. The fact that he can't be KO'd by strike attribute characters is kind of like negligible. What makes him good is the fact that he by himself does the suction of the 2 Dawn. So whenever he's played, he's a 2-cost 3k, which is not terrible stats. He's also a 1k counter. He basically states, I can become a 5k for free at any point in time, and then also by doing that for free, I'm going to use Monkey D. Garp's ability to minus the cost by 2. So you have like the Sengoku when attacking effect, or like the old ladies on play effect, constantly on a body that can become an aggressive body. So this helps deal with the aggressive boards while also doing the game plan that you necessarily want. Another new addition is Rono Zoro. Cards that beg for Dawn. Similar to the Nico Robin, this card begs for 1 Dawn. But what he does that Nico Robin doesn't do is A, he's much more difficult to be KO'd. The fact that he's a 6 on my opponent's turn is huge. With 1 Dawn, he becomes a 7/2 Dawn, he's an 8k, and that very easily contests Whitebeard, the 6k blocker Law, and many, many other cards in the meta. He's honestly pretty formidable. His only downside is the fact that he doesn't have any counter power. But by increasing the Sanji amount and the Monkey D. Luffy, we kind of tried to mitigate that from the original build to not lose too much combo power. Another big addition, 1 more Sakazuki and 1 more Meteor Volcano. There are very many times where I could reduce cards all the way down to 0, but I just didn't have a dunker in my hand. At the end of the day, there's only 12 of them in my deck, and I'm maxing out of them as much as possible. Well, I guess Monkey D. Garp is one, but this card is Vista. This guy is Vista'd all the time, but if he ever gets to stick, this card is absurd. Literally broken. But I'm talking about the consistent dunkers from hand being the Kobe, the Sakazuki, as well as the Meteor Volcano. There's only 12, so I got to make sure to max out on them to make sure that I can consistently get those effects off when necessary, because if I whiff on the dunk on a turn that I need to, I'm in for a bad time. But other than that, I think this deck is in a very good spot to do very, very well in our current metagame. There's a big surprise factor, not many weaknesses, big amount of combo in terms of Radical Beam and Impact Wave, as well as searchable 2Ks galore, 1-drop blockers. Borzolino is one of the best cards in the game, honestly. I'm in love with this guy. He's so good. And a lot of tempo cards in the form of our dunks, right? So I don't know. This deck looks pretty darn cool. It is going to be definitely a pet deck of mine. I'm going to try to make it better as the meta progresses, but I'm not really sure what it necessarily loses to. I think this is one of those decks that if you don't get the right draw, you're going to be very, very punished. It could very much clog. If you see too many of the dunks without, you know, anything else, your hand could be pretty heavy. But this is kind of a lower to the ground deck, as the highest cost card in your deck is a 6 cost. That is because you have to use your Dawn offensively, so you're going to be basically moving around 3 to 4 Dawn a turn, and then you have cards like Kobe, Sakazuki, and things like that to do your abilities, and then you can keep 1 or 2 up for the Radical Beam and the Impact Wave. And that's kind of how the deck wants to function. But felt very, very good. Give it a shot for yourself. And as always, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button. I don't know why I said it like that, but and as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or if you're playing Garp, if you've enjoyed Garp, if you have any differences between your Garp build and my Garp build, leave a comment down below. We can discuss it and make this deck a little bit stronger. I think this deck has a lot of room for improvement, and it still feels good. And as always, guys, if you are enjoying the content and haven't joined the Pirate Crew today, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.